What a massive 2 weeks in Brisbane this has been. Obviously, ex-Tropical Cyclone Alfred was the big attention grabber, but that's far from the only thing worth keeping across. I've got a heap of massive updates for you from all around Greater Brisbane to keep you in the loop with all the latest. From Alfred to Olympics updates, 2 shock exits from Brisbane, and some controversial moves. Get comfy, grab a drink, this is going to be a good one. Let's go. Obviously, the biggest update is that we almost had a Category 2 tropical cyclone sweep through Brisbane. Well, that's what they were predicting early on. Tropical Cyclone Alfred took his time, slowing down and extending the anticipation for the eventual landfall by 2 days, finally arriving at the mainland on Saturday the 8th. But thankfully it had lost its power by then. It crossed the Bay Islands as a Category 1 and had been downgraded to a tropical low by the time it hit the mainland. While most of us didn't get the full force of a tropical cyclone, both the weather and our responses to it were enough to disrupt life significantly over the course of the last week or so. Some suburbs were hit with strong winds that took down trees and power lines, and there was flash flooding across the region. While it could have been worse, Brisbane had record rainfall, with over 275 millimetres falling in 24 hours between March 9 and 10. Another record was the number of premises to lose power, with about 330,000 homes and businesses losing power across southeast Queensland. At the time of making this video, around 20,000 homes are still without power, and the disruptions extended beyond power supply and flooding. Public transport was suspended across the 5 LGAs, as were waste collection services. People who were warned to prepare between 3 days and a week's worth of food emptied supermarket shelves. Leading up to the arrival of the weather system, State Premier David Crisafulli issued an emergency planning declaration for 21 Queensland councils, allowing supermarkets, warehouses and hardware stores, as well as health services, to work around the clock to restock and meet the increased demand. After stores reopened, this was extended, with stores still able to restock around the clock at the time of releasing this video. Despite this, continued high demand and disruptions to deliveries due to storm damage and flooding meant supermarkets still had low stock for a while after they reopened. Now that the weather system has passed, what are the continuing impacts and plans for Greater Brisbane moving forward, apart from restoring electricity to the 20,000 or so premises still without? Well, firstly, our focus has turned to cleanup. Insurers have received over 44,000 claims, and different levels of government have announced support for people working to return our communities to normality. The state government has announced $15 million in funding for southeast Queensland councils to support cleanup and restoration activities. They're also offering grants of up to $5,000 to sporting clubs impacted by Alfred. Brisbane City Council has promised payments of $7,500 to community clubs to help with cleanup costs. To claim the funds, not-for-profit clubs need to complete a simple survey and provide photographic evidence of damage sustained. Brisbane City Council have also set up what they call the Ute Army. This is an organised effort to connect people with utes that are able to collect green waste to drop off at either waste recovery centres or temporary green waste satellite sites, with people needing their waste to be collected. Most Greater Brisbane councils are temporarily waiving fees for dropping off green waste, and many have extended the operating hours of their waste recovery centres. A couple of impacts of the flooding that you may not be aware of include potential delays to work on the Cross River Rail, who have lodged an application for a 30-day suspension of some project conditions to allow them to respond to impacts of the severe weather. This includes being able to dewater their sites, which would require them to have noise and vibration limits waived to allow for 24-hour work 7 days a week over that 30-day period. Another impact that had been predicted and has since been realised is the spread of fire ants. As we've mentioned in previous updates, the ants are able to clump together and form a raft that protects the queen and her eggs, floating with the water flow and establishing a new community downstream. Whether you agree with how eradication efforts are being conducted or not, it's clear that fire ants do present a very real threat to Brisbane residents if they're able to continue spreading. For full disclosure, I have been contacted by individuals dissatisfied with how fire ant treatments have been conducted, and am still searching for solid evidence to either support or refute their claims. Perhaps the most important update for me to share with you with regard to the impact of ex-tropical cyclone Alfred is the support that is being offered for people who have been affected. People in all areas of Brisbane, Redland, Moreton Bay and Logan, and select parts of Ipswich, can apply for personal hardship financial assistance. This includes emergency hardship assistance, which is $180 for individuals or up to $900 for families of 5 or more, and is for people living in the affected areas who have experienced personal hardship and can't meet their immediate essential needs, such as food, medication, clothing and temporary accommodation. Essential Services Hardship Assistance is for anyone who has lost essential services such as power, gas, water or sewage for more than 5 days and is experiencing personal hardship as a result. This grant is $150 for individuals and up to $750 for families of 5 or more. Then there's the Essential Household Contents Grant, which is for replacement of lost household contents such as bed linen and white goods. People who own or rent in affected areas who have lost items that they own and are either uninsured or unable to make an insurance claim are eligible. The grant is $1,765 for individuals or up to $5,300 for families of 5 or more. But there are also income thresholds that may affect your eligibility. The Essential Services Safety and Reconnection Grant is for safety inspections and repairs to restore essential services. Available funds are $200 for safety inspection costs and $4,200 for repairs or replacements required. The same income thresholds as the Household Contents Grant apply. In addition, there's a Structural Assistance Grant of up to $80,000 for structural repairs or replacement of a dwelling. The Queensland Government has also announced disaster loans for small businesses, primary producers and not-for-profits. Disaster assistance loans of up to $250,000 and essential working capital loans of up to $100,000 are available to repair damaged assets, restock supplies, and for the costs of sustaining operations. Freight subsidies of up to $5,000 are also available to move stock or produce or for delivery of essential supplies to farms. For details of all of these grants, I've put a link in the video description. This video is sponsored by YB Painting Services, one of Brisbane's most professional providers of painting services. I'm even planning some work on my place with them. Their meticulous attention to detail is impressive, and with fixed pricing and a 5-year warranty on all their work, you can be sure there'll be no unpleasant surprises. If you're thinking of getting some painting work done, you'll get a 10% discount as a viewer of the Brisbane Channel. Just scan this QR code or click the link in the video description. Now let's get to all the other things going on across the cities. We'll start with Olympics updates. While the official announcement outlining the results of the 100-day Games review is not due out until the 25th, Night News has already reported some key parts of what will be announced. I won't repeat it in much detail as it's easy for this to become like a game of Chinese whispers, or broken telephone for the politically correct. The Brisbane Channel will certainly pass on the details once everything has been announced officially, but for now I will say that the 9 News reporter said that a new stadium at Victoria Park would be the proposed main Olympic stadium. Groups opposing development at Victoria Park are reportedly already speaking with barristers about a potential legal challenge to a stadium there, so expect updates on that in the coming weeks. There was also talk of an alternative to a Victoria Park stadium at Albion. Nine also mentioned the government considering constructing the Athletes Village at Bowen Hills next to the RNA Showgrounds and building the Brisbane Live Arena near the Gabba instead of at Roma Street. In any case, the Brisbane Channel will await the official announcements on the 25th before going into any real detail on this. As far as officially announced plans for future development around Greater Brisbane, in Redlands, all 3 levels of government have expressed their commitment to prioritising extension of the Brisbane Metro bus line to Capalaba and even beyond. Both federal member for Bowman, Henry Pike, and state member for Springwood, Mick de Brenny, have joined with Redland City Council to point out the importance of the improvement of the city's public transport network, with the population of Redland City projected to increase by 17% by 2046. Pike has suggested that the line could be further extended to Victoria Point and Redland Bay. And while we're in Redland City, local residents have expressed concern at the discovery of many dead fish and eels floating in the lower Lake of Crystal Waters wetlands in Thornlanes. The deaths have been attributed to excess weeds that have accumulated on the water's surface, depriving the fish of oxygen. An investigation by the council found no chemical contamination and agreed that the low levels of oxygen in the water were a likely cause, and committed to managing the vegetation across Redland's waterways. Before I move on to other LGA-specific updates, I should mention a statewide grant that was announced just before the recent weather events took place. Organisations can apply for up to $50,000 from a pool of $500,000 to support efforts to keep Queensland rubbish-free. The grants will be offered to groups or organisations that encourage communities and volunteers to participate in the removal of harmful litter from parks and reserves and marine debris from beaches, creeks, rivers and wetlands. I've put a link in the video description in case you want to find out more. Now let's get to more LGA-specific updates. We've already done Redlands, so let's look at some big updates for Brisbane City. Firstly, a couple of iconic companies are exiting the city. You may or may not be pleased to hear that this will be the last update on the Brisbane Channel that talks about Star Entertainment. In the last week, they finally accepted a buyout of their share in the Destination Brisbane Consortium, the group behind the Queen's Wharf development, by the other two members, Chow Tai Fook and Far East Consortium. There were other elements to the agreement, so if you're interested, I've linked it in the video description. But the key takeaway for the Brisbane Channel is that Star will no longer be operating in Brisbane from the end of April, and Queen's Wharf will be wholly Chinese owned. If you find these updates useful, helpful, or interesting, you can say thanks by buying me a coffee. You can also join the community of people supporting the channel by becoming a member, and you get access to extra stuff. Thanks to these members for their continued support. But if you're not in a position to do either of those, giving the video a thumbs up is free. Anyway, the other surprise exit is Hilton. After 39 years in Brisbane, the Hilton Hotel will close at the end of next month and reopen as not a Hilton. The hotel will be undergoing a full refurbishment next year, but there's no word about what brand the hotel will transition to. Now from luxury suites to people living in tents. With public camping by people experiencing homelessness now made illegal in Moreton Bay, many people in that position are considering a place they can move on to. And just this week, Brisbane Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner has made it clear that Brisbane's parks won't be that place. Echoing the concerns of council in Moreton Bay, Brisbane City Council cites public safety as the main reason people will no longer be allowed to camp in Brisbane parks, saying they have become no-go zones because of violence, drug use and antisocial behaviour. The other reason given was that people had been offered secure housing and refused it, choosing to continue camping instead. When interviewed by the Brisbane Times, Paul Slater, founder of Northwest Community Group, which provides support for people experiencing homelessness, said that people he dealt with said that they hadn't been offered accommodation. The Lord Mayor has said that they would start serving notices to people camping in parks that give them 24 hours to vacate the area on Thursday. This is certainly a complicated issue and one I've been planning to do a deep dive into for some time for the Brisbane Channel, but it seems now may be the time to get cracking on this one. Stay tuned as I'm going to dig deep into the issue from all sides to share a fair and balanced exploration of the situation in all of its complexity. And of course, subscribe so you don't miss it. The final update for the Brisbane LGA is about plans to build a 30-storey residential tower on Coronation Drive in Milton. The developer, Silverstone Developments, originally planned to erect a 26-storey commercial building, but they decided residential apartments would be more viable. The apartments are aimed at the more affluent, with 144 three-bedroom units and 48 with 2 bedrooms. There's certainly the demand for it, and who can complain about adding to supply with our current housing situation? Let's jump over to Ipswich now, and the city is getting close to finalising their new city planning scheme, which will map out how the city develops over the next 20 years. Ipswich is projected to grow from a population of about 253,000 now, more than doubling to 535,000 by 2046. The new scheme aims to guide how the city meets the increased needs of a growing population, ensuring changes benefit people, places, the environment, and the economy. The plan has been signed off by the state government, but with some amendments that must be made before it proceeds to the adoption phase. I'll share more details down the track when it's all finalised. Also in Ipswich, development of a proposed composting facility at Ebenezer is drawing strong opposition from community groups. The Candy Soils composting facility is expected to process up to 1,200 tonnes of waste each day, with a storage facility of 25,200 tonnes. Local Ipswich News says a review of the odour report for the facility by residents has raised alleged inconsistencies, missing data, and questionable compliance. It's understandable that Ipswich residents would be sensitive to waste management and facilities that deal with odorous materials, with the public health inquiry into the Swanbank industrial estate still underway. Submissions to that close on the 31st of this month. Australia's honey industry and other agricultural industries that rely on bees for pollination is being threatened by the parasitic Varroa destructor mite, and it's now been detected for the first time in Queensland in the Lockyer Valley just next to Ipswich. This has put both professional and hobby beekeepers in Greater Brisbane on high alert. Beekeepers are encouraged to conduct monthly hive health checks to determine if the mites are present. The mites feed on adult bees, bee larvae, and pupae, weakening them and killing them. It also increases the spread of deadly viruses among hives. Authorities in Australia have already abandoned attempts to eradicate the mites, focusing now on finding ways to manage them and reduce their impact. Beyond these updates, there's a lot of exciting projects in the works for the Brisbane Channel. Let me know what you'd like to see on the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.